Hey guys, my name is Talia. I'm a staff member at Discovery and I'm going to help you do your homework today. So hopefully at this point you guys know a little bit more about data frames and a little bit more about what we can do with them and how they work. So take this data frame for example. This is the course's data frame. This has data on every course at the University of Illinois, what year it ran, what term it is, what subject it is, all that stuff. And it has 8,589 rows. That's way too much for us to look at all at once, way too much for us just to read this thing and understand what to do with it. So a lot of times when we're working with data frames, we want to use conditionals and take subsets of this whole big thing. And so in this case, in the course's data frame, let's say we want to look at all courses that have the subject of English. So we want to kind of get rid of everything we don't want. Like we don't want to learn about Asian American studies, you don't learn about Zulu right now, only English. And to kind of make a smaller data frame that's a subset of this one, we use certain Python commands. There are two ways to do this. They're pretty similar. Method one, which is what I'm going to teach you right now, works every time. So basically you start out just by, since this is loaded in df, you start just by specifying that you're working within df, the data frame called df. Then you put a set of brackets here to show that you're inside df. Then you want to specify which column we're dealing with. And so in this case, since we're eliminating all classes that don't have the subject English, and we only want to take the English subject, we're in the subject column. So you write df subject in brackets, and you always want to put the name of the column in quotes. Make sure it's spelled exactly as the column name appears, so capitals have to be the same. This is a capital S, so you want to make sure this is a capital S, right? And you put it in quotes, and then use a double equal sign to check to see if every column has the subject equal to ENGL, which stands for English. So basically what this does is it runs through every row in the subject column and it checks to see if the data stored in the subject column is equal to the string ENGL. And you want to make sure this is in quotes too. And you also want to make sure, I forget this all the time still, is to do a double equal here instead of a single equal. And then you just close the brackets at the end, and that should give you your subset. And remember, you always want to store it in a new variable so you can work with it later. So let's just call it df English ENGL equals this. And then when you type in df ENGL, it'll create a new data frame that's much smaller, much easier to look at. It'll only contain classes with the subject English. The other way to do this is pretty similar. It's not that different. The only difference is it depends on what the subject is, what the column is called. So since the subject column is only one word, you can kind of simplify it by just doing df dot subject is double equal to English. And then you only need one set of brackets. But the problem with this is that if your column name has spaces in it, say there's another column here and it's called average GPA, you have to do this bracket form and use the quotes, because if you can't just do df.average space GPA, because this space here will break the code that you're doing and then it won't understand it anymore, and it's not going to connect. It's not going to connect this to this. If you do a double equal, it's not going to understand that you're still working within this data frame because this space here breaks it. So that's why I usually do this one, because no matter what the column is called, this will work. This only works if the column name is just one word. But you can still use this if you're in a rush or something. And so either way, you also store it in df English, and you'll get the same thing, a smaller data frame with only English courses.